Brandon.
Oh,
Hello.
how are you?
Well, good. Um, it'll be good when we get this all started. She was telling me that there was a way to do chats, breakout rooms. Do you know how to do that?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect. So we have Allison Levine and Mary Lynn Darrington from Utah State that will be joining us. They wanted to be able to do that. So as long as you know how to do it, we're good. I did try to figure it out, but I could not figure out where.
Um, so uh, I so first off, I don't know if we both have this ability or not, but along the bottom of my screen, if I'm reading across, there's your video and security and participants, etc. And then there's three little dots that say more. And when you hit on the more, three little dots, there's maybe almost half or a little more than halfway down there, it says breakout rooms.
Okay. I don't have the three little dots with the more option. I
Sounds
have
good.
participants, chat, screen share, summary, all companion, record, caption, reaction, whiteboard, and notes. Well,
Okay,
that explains why I could not find it before. So
sounds good. Now, the one question I was going to ask you is, when we do the breakout rooms, it asks me how many rooms we want. So I don't know how many people you would like in each room. So I know that probably depends on how many people are here, but I
that's
don't know.
fair.
What do you think?
I'm going to guess that they'd probably want between 5 and 6. Let me ask. They're going to join us at 12:30, even though the training portion of that, the people that I have helping with that training. So when they come on, I'll ask them and then shoot you a quick message. But I'm going to guess between 5 and 6.
Okay. So if we had 50 people, just do 10 rooms and then randomly assign them all, something like that.
That would be that's how I would handle it. Does she have a PowerPoint that she's working from today?
And by, you mean Marie?
Yes, that she had put together.
She doesn't. I think she says she does not use kind of like a slide deck. She lets each participant share as they go.
Okay.
So I think it's just you and I, and by you and I mean you with me supporting. Although I'm here to help in any way, of course. But yeah, I don't think we have anything. The only thing that I have is I know that Dr. Kramer is going to introduce things at the beginning.
Okay.
I have a little thing that I'm going to do because I have a request from the SESB to the charter directors, and then I think we're just running through all the people, or all the presenters and things like that.
Okay, so just let me make sure that I understand. Marie wants me to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to kind of run down the open part. We've got Dr. Kramer, who's going to be speaking with us. Following Dr. Kramer, we have Paula Plant from the Land Trust Committee who will be speaking to us, and then we'll go to that point, kind of a thing. And then Dr. Kramer will come on and do his whatever he's got going on. Because she gave him 20 minutes. That seems like a lot of time. I hope maybe he'll take it, but if not, I did reach out to Paula to see if she could come sooner, and she said she would be able to do that.
Smart.
We'll have my experience with her, and that is it will take more than 10 minutes. So that would be fine if she's starting a little earlier.
Okay.
And then Allison, I'd like to start them right on time because she's very timely herself. So, all right.
Okay. I'm going to admit everybody in. All right.
Sounds good.
Unless Dr. Kramer here has a quick little note.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hi,
Good
Paul.
morning.
Good afternoon.
I guess you're right. My mind is still in the morning.
Yeah. I should say all this is recorded, so we might have to make some edits on the way.
That might be wise because that'll be a little bit daunting and maybe monotonous for people to listen to.
Listen to our brainstorming at the beginning. Yes. Okay, I'm going to admit everybody in, and then we'll get to it. And Paul, you and I are going to be, well, you're going to be first kind of introducing, and then I'll take over just for a little bit, hand it back to Shannon, and then she's going to run through, and I think it'll be good.
So let me
Thank
just,
you.
are you starting, or do you
Oh,
you
yeah.
do right to start?
Yeah, still Shannon to start, and then, yeah, so forth. Okay, I'm going to mute myself.
Shannon, you'll introduce and kick us off?
Yes, unless you want to.
No, I'd prefer you do.
Okay, I'll do that for you. No problem.
Thank you, Shannon.
Yes, you're welcome. Welcome to our directors meeting today. We'll take another minute or so to make sure everyone has a chance to get in, but I'm sure you're looking at me and saying, this is not Marie Stephenson, what is going on? So I just wanted to, just by way of explanation, I'm Shannon Greer, and I will just be supporting Marie today while she is away from the office. And I'm excited to be with you. Many of you just came from another meeting, so today is the day of meetings. Get it all in one day, and all the good information is great. By way of information, we are recording this, so that will be available for those who are not with us right now. As far as the agenda, I just wanted to share with you briefly, make sure that we're all on the same page and that we are moving in the same direction. Dr. Kramer is going to address us first. And following his remarks, we are going to have Paula Plant with the Land Trust Committee, and she will be speaking with us. Many of you have filled out your forms and you've submitted your plans. If not, you're in the process of that. And she just wants to make sure that we are supporting charter schools and that you have all the information that you need so that that information can be submitted on time and you can receive those funds. So welcome to our December 11th directors meeting with the State Charter School Board. With us, Dr. Kramer. This will be an opportunity that we have to listen to him and to get to know him a little bit better. So we're going to turn the time to you. Thank you.
Super appreciate it. Saw some of your faces and saw some of your names in the meeting just a little while ago. And so just to reiterate that as an authorizer, as the executive director, that our goal is to be a supportive authorizer. That is our intent. That is our goal. That is what we believe that we're established to do is to, have accountability and be an authorizer, but to do that in a supportive way. And that can look in different ways. It can look when we get together, and I do hope to get to all of your schools. I've been to nearly a dozen already in 45 days. And when we get to the schools, we get a chance to just talk. We get a chance to introduce one another. And I get a chance to listen and to learn from you as operators. I was an operator in Arizona of charter schools for many years. And so understand the unique opportunities, some of the challenges that charter school operators have. And so support can look like listening and learning and hearing from you. What can we do to provide training or resource or support in those things? There will be times when we come to you and say, here's something to take a look at and a deadline to meet. And we're going to do that. We're going to also then bring those things to your attention so that together we can become compliant and remain compliant in the area in our charter schools. So I just have to tell you that everyone in Utah has been so kind as I've moved from Arizona here. Everybody has been very professional, welcoming, and I believe that in the next year that I'll have a chance to get into all of your schools and to meet all of our leaders, and I really look forward to that. When I come away from a school, I'll tell you there's inspiring things that are shared and very inspiring things that I observe. And those are called highlights of the schools, not just the academic grade or to hear about your wait list, although those things are great, but it is the mission and the vision and the accomplishment of your mission and vision and being able to hear those things and see those things as we talk and as I tour. It's just outstanding. And We hope to gather a lot of highlights from your schools. And with the time that we have right now, I would like to introduce you to, if you don't already know, Brendan McGinn. He is going to begin a campaign of bringing in some of the highlights and some of the great things that are going on in our schools, so that we can share that broadly through annual reports and different types of ways that we communicate the great work that you're doing in the schools. So I just wanted to say again, just that I've really enjoyed getting to meet some of you, and I look forward to meeting all of you over the course of this next year. And if you need anything in the way of support, that we are here for you, myself, the Associate Executive Director, Marie, and our team. And with that, I'd like to turn over some time to Brendan McGinn, so that he can talk about the collection of some of the highlights and some of the great things that are going on in the schools.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. And hello, everybody. I know I've met some of you, but not all, but thank you for letting me chat at you for just a few minutes here. I'm going to share my screen and let's see here. So for this particular request, it turns out that when we were kind of looking through our data and preparing for our annual report that we do for the legislative session for 2024, it dawned on us that this is the 20-year anniversary of authorizing for the State Charter School Board. For those of you who don't know, that's not actually when charter schools started in Utah. It started before that, but originally charter schools were authorized by the USBE, which actually wasn't called the USBE back then, and local school districts. And I know there's a lot of people in this particular Zoom meeting that have a lot more knowledge about the decisions that were made back at the time to pursue a different organization within USBE, the State Charter School Board, but it was created through legislation in 2004. And so this year we decided that we wanted to maybe highlight some of that history, and when we go talk to legislators next month, we wanted to remind them of all the good things that have happened through state charter or through charter schools in Utah over the last 20 years. So I have a small request. This picture actually is the State Charter School Board from around 2006. 20 years doesn't seem like it goes by fast, and then you look at photos and you realize that it does go by faster than you think. And I put up here, please send any historic photos. I originally had the word old there, and then that didn't feel like the right word to use in that particular way. So what we're going to do is we'd like to just accumulate a few photos from schools, our charter schools, over the last 20 years. Historic probably is the right word in this context. And we're going to use those photos for anything from our annual reports to maybe some media that we do. And we're going to start to collect that over the next couple months. Some examples that I'm thinking about might be a groundbreaking ceremony for school buildings, or satellites or expansions or anything like that, graduations, any past board members or directors or anything like that, award ceremonies. Just as a quick little example, I know Soldier Hollow Charter School won a Blue Ribbon Award from a number of years ago, and there was a beautiful picture of that school with their award. That's a wonderful thing, and I know many of the other schools out there have similar things. So this is more just a first initial ask. You can send those to me at my email, and I will send this out in an email to the group later, but this is just kind of that initial ask. And please let me know if you have any questions, but we're excited to see what we find, and then to incorporate these photos to show off 20 years of authorizing in Utah. So thank you for that. I'll pass it back to Dr. Kramer unless he has anything, and if he doesn't, I'll pass the time back to Shannon to get us moving to the next section.
Back to Shannon, and thank you everyone, and have a great week.
Thank you. Brendan, that's exciting. It will be fun to watch for those historical photos in publications from the State Charter School Board for the next year. So pull out the scrapbooks, dig through the files, send Brandon the things that you've got. We're going to move now into Paula Plant is joining us from the Land Trust Committee. She's got some important items to discuss with us, as well as following up on the deadlines that are coming up. Paula?
Actually, Holly Corus is going to do the presentation. She's online as well. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Let me begin first by putting my presentation into the notes. That way you can follow along. There is a resource page near the end of that. So if you would like any additional information, that is there for you. We are going to we're going to go ahead and just get started. We do have some new things that are happening. And so this first one, there have been some additions to what business administrator roles will be for the School Land Trust program. Business administrators are going to replace charter authorizers in the review process for the School Land Trust funding. And to give you some background on this change, a working group of charter stakeholders proposed the change. And once the change was made, it became a procedure for the program that started this school year. The change has already gone through the Education Interim Committee with no concerns, and it is expected that the legislature will ratify this. So there are about 3 times that we will see this change happening throughout the school year. The first is for final report approvals. The approval process will stay the same at the first 2 levels, where UPEF's information is transferred to the reporting website in January. And then after that, the director of each charter school will complete the final report. There still needs to be a presentation of the final report to the governing board on the previous school year's plan implementation. And then once those 2 steps have been completed, that's where the business administrator will step in. They will do the review and approve the final report on the reporting website. The other 2 times that we will see this change go into effect is for the upcoming plan and the amendment approval process. So again, those first 2 steps are going to stay the same. The trust land councils will create and approve the school land trust plans and any amendments. The governing board will still do their review and approval of the school land trust plan or amendments. And then the third step, that's where we see this change for business administrators. Once the plan or the amendment is entered on the reporting website, the business administrator will go in, they will do the review and approve this each school's plan or amendment. And then they will also need to make sure that they record the date that the board approved the plan or the amendment. And so once that has been done, excuse me, that will come to us at the School Children's Trust section, and we will do the finalization and final approval. We do have training that is ongoing for business administrators, and we are asking for your help to make sure that your business administrator knows how to request a login. Like I mentioned, there is that resource page at the end of this. There is a link for how business administrators, like an instruction page on how they will request a login for that. My next thing to cover is final reports. Those will be available for you on January 15th. The final report, its purpose is to clearly state how school land trust funds were spent to support the academic goals and student achievement by answering questions about the measurement and action plan steps. As you are working to complete the report, please remember that no student or personal data may be listed in the report, and that once that report is approved, it does become public record on a reporting website. If you used the final report template that was sent out last spring and at the end of the school year, and you filled that out, you can just copy and paste the information, and that will make it very easy for you. I'm just finishing up my newsletters for the month of December, and I will be sending out a video with steps on how to complete the final report. So if you have any questions about that, it will be in your inboxes hopefully tomorrow. We do have a new item, and I believe that Paula and I talked about this all the way back in September, where we are going to be implementing an LEA assurance. This assurance must be completed after final reports, but before upcoming plans can be reviewed by the School Children's Trust section. It is essentially a checklist that all program requirements have been met for this school year. And so I am going to go through and kind of tell you what each of those parts are. So the first is that it is going to ensure that the Charter Trust Land Council membership form and principal assurance have been submitted. The Charter Trust Land Council has been identified as the board serving as the council, or the school has an elected council, and that the required website postings are on the school website. It will verify that training has been provided. Actually, I think I'm on the wrong. Oh, I'm going forward. Sorry. There we go. Okay. It will verify that training has been provided for the Charter Trust Land Council members, the governing board, and business administrators. It ensures that the final report has been entered by the director, presented to the governing board, and reviewed and finalized by the business administrator on the School Land Trust reporting website. It is also going to help us confirm that when the Charter Trust Land Council created and approved the upcoming plan, they also completed the council assurance, which we've also called the signature, the council member signature form. And that this specific form was also provided to the governing board with the upcoming plan. This council signature form just assures that council members were involved in implementing the current school year land trust plan, as well as participating in development of the school plan for the upcoming school year. With all of this information, it is important to know that only one LEA assurance will need to be filled out per LEA. So if there is a single school in the LEA, the director will be the one responsible for completion of the assurance. If an LEA has multiple satellites, again, the director will only need to complete one assurance for the entire LEA. A reminder for your timelines, this is where you should be for this point of the school year. I do have the specific links on that resource slide, so you can go and easily access those. And then the last thing that I have for you today is an advertisement for drop-in hours that I will be holding in January. I did this back in October when the deadline for council membership and principal assurance were coming. And so I wanted to provide that for you again when the final report is open. So really my vision is that you can come in and drop in, and I can help answer any questions that you have about the program, whether it be final reports or the LEA assurance. But you certainly don't need to wait until these drop-in hours to contact us with questions. So if you do have any questions about what I've covered today, I do know that it was a lot. Please feel free to contact us, and we're more than happy to answer those and help you out when we can. And then that is all I have for you today. Thank you.
Holly, thank you for sharing that with us. Before we move on to our training portion, I just wanted to open it up. Are there any questions from those of you who are participating with us today from our directors that Holly might be able to answer quickly for you? If you want to just come off mute and just ask, that would be fine.
Due date for the next year's plan is when?
So that depends on the, no, that doesn't depend. Sorry, that is April 1st, I believe, and March 1st. So yes, it does depend on your charter type. So all charter schools that are authorized by the Utah State Board of Education is March or April. Paula, will you help me? Are you still on? I know that one is April 1st and one is March 1st.
Yeah, so if it's a charter school that's been authorized by the state charter school board, which is most charter schools, then your due date is April the 1st for it to have gone through the process and be submitted online for our review. The others have the same due date as districts. Many of them are district chartered, and so their due date is May 15th. Thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you. Superintendent Dickinson, are you still with us? Okay. She was with us for just a moment, just wanted to share her thoughts in the group chat. She's left that message for you all. So thank you for your hard work and your efforts. And she's wishing you a very happy holiday season. So with that, let's move into the training portion of our meeting today. We have with us two delightful ladies that I'm excited to share with you and learn from alongside you. We have with us, we have Allison Levine and we've got Mary Lou Darrington, both associated with Utah State University. They are here today to share training with us on actionable feedback for pre-K through high school students. This training portion is a standalone training that they will complete in about an hour and a half. And we're excited to also follow up this training today with a book study by the same name. So I'm going to let these ladies take the time and maybe by that also do a quick introduction of yourselves. And then when they're done, I will come back and share information on how you can register to join us for the book study. So ladies, thank you for spending the time with us. They've been delightful and they've been working hard for the last several months on today's standalone training, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Please let me know if there's any disruption at all in audio, whatnot, today. Let me just first start. I'm going to share my screen and we will definitely get to introductions here in a minute. So hopefully you all can see a PowerPoint. I'm hoping. Let me see. I'm looking for, all right. I'm looking at my screen for confirmation. My name is Allison Levine. I have with me today Dr. Mary Lynn Darrington, and we are so honored to be with you. I know how busy you are as school leaders, and the fact that you're spending a little time with us today is really special for us and exciting. So absolutely honored to be here in this space for sure. I just want to let you know, today we've been invited to kind of unpack and think a little bit about the big picture of teacher growth and development, really through supervision and feedback. So if you feel like you have been rushing to try to get observations done or post-observation conferences, this is dedicated time for us to sit and think and soak all of this up and do this work together. So we will be spending some time today really thinking about and actually having you articulate your why behind what you do for teacher supervision. You may be really eager to get right to the practice of it, but we do really think it's important, just like in teaching, to really understand the rationale behind your actions and why you do them and why they make sense, right? For you yourself, but also for your supervisor and for the teachers that you might supervise as well. So before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and get us some introductions here. So you've met me. My name is Allison Levine. I am an associate professor here at Utah State University, although calling in from Salt Lake if there's Salt Lake region folks here with me today. I teach in our principal preparation program at Utah State University. And a lot of my work focuses on teacher retention, teacher beliefs, as well as student, teacher, and leader dynamics in classrooms and schools. So I do a lot of observational research, but my most recent work has actually been recording post-observation conferences between school leaders and their teachers to look at the quality and the content of those conversations. So what we're digging into today is at the heart of the things I'm interested in. I've been listening to these conversations, thinking about them, and I teach this content in our principal preparation program as well. Mary Lynn, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. How fun to be here. I look forward to some time with you today. I'm coming to you from Knoxville, Tennessee, where I am currently an associate professor. But before I had this role in the ivory tower here, I was a principal and then a school superintendent together for a total of 25 years in the state of Washington. And of course, I was a teacher before that as well. So I was thrilled to write this book with Allison and bring to bear both my current research interests, but also my practical experience. And I should also say that I am the director of a Doctor of Education program that is really fabulous, and it's online, and certainly invite you to take a look at that. We have people in our program from all over the United States, and it's nice to have different perspectives. So I'm looking forward to working with you today and listening to what you have to say. Thanks, Allison. All right, so just an overview of what we're going to do today a little bit during our time together. We want to provide you with some practical ideas that you can use in your day-to-day practice. While we may do research, we actually believe in the theory to practice application to provide some tools for you. We will look at the emphasis on providing teachers with useful and meaningful feedback following a classroom observation. You have knowledge that we want to tap into, draw on, and build on and share. So one of the activities we'll also do is guide you through a reflection activity, just not a lengthy time, but start looking at examining your current philosophy of instructional supervision and feedback. And then at the end, we'll provide you with a resource and tool you can use to gather information about how you are perceived in action with your philosophy, or how your philosophy is perceived in action by your teachers. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with some key takeaways and talk a little bit more about future sessions that some of you will hopefully join in. Allison?
Great. So just to remind you about what we're really going to be walking away with today, we got to do our objectives and really be thinking about the resources and tools to make this time super valuable for you. So after this session, you'll walk away with having described how instructional supervision, really feedback to teachers, fits within your role as a school leader. I know that you wear thousands of hats. So where is this? How important is it? What kind of role does it play? Describing your experience of receiving feedback and what makes it effective. So really starting to unpack those characteristics of effective feedback, and then kind of pulling back, you know, a little kind of 10,000 feet in the sky of when we step back, how do those feedback conversations, those post-observation conferences you're having with teachers, how does that reflect your beliefs and your philosophies about teacher supervision? So you will walk away with having articulated this, or at least beginning to articulate it for yourself and for others, as well as really having a good idea of what those feedback conversations should sound like? What's sort of the nature of those? And today was informed in part by your feedback. So thank you for those of you who responded. I think it was maybe Shannon or Marie had sent out something for us, asking a little bit about your challenges and struggles. Are going to see us touch on some of these pieces today. And we'll also dig into a number of these as well as we get further along in the book study sessions. So just be prepared. We will have Google Docs to share with you today, things you can take, you can copy, you can edit, make it your own. And we'll be popping those into the chat. We'll also be sending you into breakout rooms to really think through and talk a little bit about feedback as well as your own instructional supervision approach. All right, Mary Lynn.
Yeah, just on the top part, we know that principles matter a lot. Well, all the research tells us, but our impact on students is through the teachers. So how we work that through the teachers is the heart of instructional supervision. One longstanding way to support teacher growth and improvement is conducting teacher observations of classroom performance and then providing feedback for their further growth and development. However, I think you all know from the survey we saw that you did, this can be really challenging. Feedback might be perceived by the teacher as vague, not useful, or not addressing the particular content or subject matter the teacher teaches. So what we hope to start, what the book is about and what we'll start today on is how do you make that feedback more useful to ensure that teachers actually do something with it that is actionable and that your feedback had some impact to help them grow, not just be a talking head like we are right now. Allison?
Sure. All right. So let's dive right into feedback. If you've got, and I know some of you have your screens off, so I know you're busy school leaders, you may have things going on, but if you've got a phone in front of you, or if you're on the phone, or if you have a piece of paper next to you or a Word document, just pull it up. And I really want us to start just diving right into this idea of feedback, right? We know that we've hold very true to our practice, observing instruction, obviously, because we're interested in teaching and learning. And we think that what teachers do matters. So we think providing them feedback on what they do matters. So take a minute. I'm going to give you about a minute or two to really write down what you would define feedback as. You tell a teacher you're going to be going into their classroom, providing them feedback. How do you tell them what feedback is? How would you define it? So take a minute and write down your own ideas. You're welcome to pop them in chat if you want to share, or you can write them down individually. Okay, and I'll give you just a couple more minutes if you want to write down any more ideas. Okay. So as you think about feedback, I think this is important, and I'll show you why. Because feedback is a commonly used word, right? Just sort of globally, which makes it really hard to sort of hone in on kind of how it matters or what it looks like in an educational setting, specifically that we might have folks who have lots of different ideas of what feedback is. So I'm going to provide just a few definitions here that you can look through. We'll look through together. Since it's so common, I thought this would be interesting as a moment of reflection. So this first one up here is the transmission of evaluative or corrective information about an action or event. The second one here, feedback, information about reactions to a product, a person's performance or task, which is used for the basis for improvement. They give the example, throughout this process, we have obtained valuable feedback. So the idea is the feedback is used to improve things in the moment, right? In a formative kind of way. So this is interesting, right? We see some evaluation pieces here. We see some formative pieces here. And then finally here, feedback as an advice. I thought it would be interesting to actually pull up some words that might be similar synonyms here. Useful information, especially from an expert. So you can see here different little pieces that come out of this. Is feedback evaluative? Is it summative? Is it formative for growth and development? Is it both? Does it depend? And do we see feedback as something that happens from an expert? And so these are some ideas for you to sort of start tossing around or thinking about as you look at your own definition and what you wrote down. I think the synonyms here are really interesting, the ones that come up here: assistance, input, suggestion, and guidance, recommendation, instruction, advice. And so these give you a lot of ideas of when you think about that feedback process, how would you sort of define it, and what's kind of the nature of those conversations that you would have with folks? So I want to dig a little bit deeper into this and really start kind of honing in. We sort of started with this idea of, what is feedback? How do we think about it? How do we define it, right? And now I really want you to sort of get a little bit closer to, all right, what does it sound like and what does it look like when it's done well? You're welcome to pull on things within your current role, like as a school leader, or if you've been a teacher, what kind of feedback you've received in that kind of setting. So you're welcome to just zero right into the school setting, right? And this supervision, teacher supervision piece. Take just 1 minute right now and you can jot some notes down, and then I'll put you in breakout rooms. But first, before I put you in breakout rooms, I want you to just think about a time that you received good feedback. So think about who you were with, context that was received in, and what was it about that feedback that made it so good? We're really trying to zero in on the characteristics of that. I'll give you just a minute to write some things down, and I will start getting some breakout rooms ready. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pop you all into a couple breakout rooms. Let's see if I can get multiple people in each one here. Let me just go back here. And what I'd love for you to do is really share for us in your breakout rooms. Let me go back here. That feedback situation that you experienced and what it was that made that feedback good. When we come back, we're going to be actually piecing out these characteristics of effective feedback to really kind of hone in on the quality and the nature of those conversations that you have with teachers. So we'll give you about 5 minutes or so you'll have some time to share. I think you all know each other really well, but feel free to introduce yourself in those settings. All right, let me go ahead and open those up, and I'll give you a little warning when we come back after 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to open the rooms. Okay, and so for some people who are absent, I'm going to move folks around here in a minute. Thanks. Dave, thanks for joining us. We're sharing good feedback that we've received in breakout rooms. So I'm going to pop you into a room here in a second.
All righty.
Mary Lynn, would you like to bump around to rooms? I think the folks that we have here in our big space are away from their keyboard, so
Sure,
currently busy. All right, let
sure,
me pop
sure.
you in. I'll let you float
Before we,
around.
yeah, okie dokie. I'm a co-host, I think, so I can join in.
Oh yeah, you should be able to do that. Why don't you
All
try
right.
to do that on your own?
I'll
and
start with
bounce.
the larger numbers, 10. You start with the smaller numbers.
Perfect. Mary Lynn, I'm going to close the rooms in just like
Alright, wait a
30
sec.
seconds.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
they're really having a good conversation. I think they've got a lot of knowledge. They talked about clinical supervision, the pre-conference, I only sat on 2 groups. One fellow talked about his wondering about transferability. I mean, was it just about that lesson? Or can he take that and use it in all his other future lessons? I think that's maybe speaks to the standards a little bit too. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Maybe
Anyways,
I'll,
I didn't have much chance to listen, but they were really having the 2 I popped in on were having good conversation.
good. I think maybe I'll close in a minute and then
Yeah.
see if they can dump some of the information in
Yeah,
the
I
chat.
think that would be good. I
Yeah.
think that would be good. I think maybe too, a point for us is, you know, we're not talking about the overall supervision cycle. We're just talking about this piece, and we're going to go more into how they, their credibility through the content knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Let me bring folks back here.
Allison, I just want to say I'm here. I'm listening, and if you need help, just let me know. But you're doing great.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Brenda. I know a lot of hands in the cookie jar moving things around. I appreciate it though. Sometimes you can never have enough. All right, we're going to get folks back in here. Take a minute. All right. So for those of you who are already with us, and I will repeat this, we just, you know, Mary Lynn and I heard some really awesome stuff in the groups that we were in, and we want to make sure everyone can gather all that awesome feedback from one another. So if you can pull the chat open and just start typing in some of the things that came out of your conversation about like what good feedback was and what it looked like and what made it awesome or really helpful for you. Or you might also have some old ideas. So for those of you who just pile back in, I think you came in right at the last minute because I probably cut off your conversation. So Mary Lynn and I were saying that we heard some really cool things come out of the group conversations, and we just would love for everyone to be able to hear it all. So if you could open the chat and just place in there what made that feedback good that you received, what came out of your conversation. If you start listing out characteristics of good feedback, what is it? I'll give you a couple minutes. Thanks. I'm also going to add some of the things I heard as well. All right, so I'm hearing some great things come out here so far. Feel free to continue typing in as we chat too. Actionable suggestions, so things that you can act upon, you know, as a teacher in the next lesson, in the next hour, if you're still teaching for that day. Feedback is best when it's specific, immediate, genuine, fair, received with trust, right? There's a whole nature around the feedback, right? It's not just that conversation, but who is it coming from? Is that a credible source? Do I trust that person have my best interest in mind? All of those pieces, right? Which we won't unpack in detail today, but feedback to specific challenges, problems, or area that I'm already focused on improving. Yeah, so a lot of these things that came out of here, I think are really helpful. I heard some folks talk about the sandwich mentality and different ways to provide feedback. But I really wanted you to start sort of thinking about these feedback conversations and just dive right into the practice piece of it as a school leader. So you can kind of pull back and say, okay, why do I do that? You know, why do I engage in feedback in that kind of way? What's the purpose of those conversations that I'm having with teachers? What do I hope for them to gain out of it? So let me pull my PowerPoint back up here so you can see where we're going today. So a lot of the things that you actually touched upon, and the reason I want to share this is that, whoops, I should have started from the beginning. The reason I wanted you to have an opportunity to touch into your own ideas on effective feedback is so that we can really pull back from the expertise that you already have. A lot of you were talking about ideas that you've had about providing teachers with feedback, what you think works best. I've tried it this way, I've tried it that way. Here's kind of where I landed. So we really want to value that expertise, but also recognize that a lot of your expertise is what we see in research and theory as well. So this is just to sort of give clout, I guess, to what you're sort of already doing or thinking. So in the work on feedback or the research on feedback, here are some of the things that have come out and emerged. And I want to be fair that the research on this is very limited. There's quite a lot of work on theorizing how feedback should occur or approaches, but the actual study of the conversations is relatively limited. But what does come out is it's accurate, right? So we both agree that's what happened in the classroom. You have to start from that place, right? Or in the lesson. It's clear. It's specific, promotes teacher reflection. So perhaps it's asking questions for teachers to identify what they thought went well and why, or how did that occur? What might you want to do next time? And it promotes further dialogue about teaching and learning. So I know there's been a lot of movement, especially in Utah. I don't know, Mary Lynn, you can talk about Tennessee, to be focusing on sort of the students and then kind of pulling back to what were the teacher dynamics that made that occur, right, in the classroom. So really making those rich connections between the teaching and the learning. And then these actionable bite-sized chunks, right? Like I know what to do next. I have the resources, I have the efficacy and the ability to take that feedback and then apply it very soon after, right? So we know that feedback, for it to be effective, you really need that opportunity to try again, right? Just like we do with students, giving them the opportunity to revise their work immediately so they can apply it. Same thing in the feedback. And those biteable sized chunks, which was something that some of you brought up in the feedback to us, right? How do you figure out how much feedback to give? What's reasonable? Despite sort of having these emerging ideas of feedback, you all have some good ideas about what it sounds like and what has worked for you with teachers. Nearly 50% of teachers indicate that the feedback they receive is not helpful. So what does that look like? And actually, a lot of the reasons they talk about are the exact reasons you identified earlier in your conversations. So sometimes it's that feedback is really general and global, good job, and doesn't identify those specific concrete characteristics. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily address a teacher's content, which we totally understand. School leaders can't be experts in everything, right? In other situations, it's not really tailored to the teacher themselves. So I think one of you mentioned that the feedback was relative to things you were already working on, right? So specific to the challenges that you're facing in your classroom or in your career as a teacher. And so what comes out of theory is a lot of this idea of differentiated feedback. So really tailoring your feedback to different teachers. And developmental feedback, really understanding or considering where a teacher might be in their career. So some of you in your feedback to us talked about, providing feedback to teachers that are in an area where you might not have expertise, or veteran teachers that maybe have more experience than you. How do you sort of think about that dynamic? And so when you're thinking about feedback conversations, some things you can think about is, one sort of theoretical approach is this idea of like, who's sort of controlling the floor and the feedback conversations, right? Am I, as a school leader, telling a teacher what needs to be done? Is it done collaboratively with the teacher? We are both problem solving together to think about what's the best area for them to work on. Or do I sit back and really let the teacher guide that feedback conversation? Tell me what you want to work on. Tell me what you thought went well in that lesson. And I'm merely there sort of to facilitate and support. And those who come from a theoretical standpoint oftentimes think about, teachers' ability to reflect, where their expertise might be, their confidence level in terms of what type of approach might be more appropriate. You might have a different idea. You might believe all conferences should be like X, Y, and Z. Maybe you think they should really differ per teacher. So those are some ideas and things to be thinking about when we look at like researchers' definitions of good feedback and theorists' perceptions of good feedback, and then your own, right? And Mary Lynn and I put some of the theorists and the textbooks that we sort of refer to and think through that have different sort of ideas and approaches to this. There's also been a recently big movement looking at culturally responsive instructional supervision and honoring that in that space. So really thinking about sort of the cultural frameworks of the teachers that you serve and where they may be coming from in that feedback conversation. So today's session, let's see, I forget, Mary Lynn, if this one is your slide or my slide.
Oh, I'm doing the activity slide.
Great.
Yeah, but I think we've pretty much gone over what today's session is
Yeah.
about.
So
I
think-
just
go
like
ahead.
to piggyback on what you said, Allison, that the differentiated and developmental, I think, are keys to what we're talking about anyway. And we zoom in on the book on one way to differentiate is content, by understanding the teacher's content. And we have various areas that are addressed in the book, and more could be addressed as far as how does, I mean, I was there as a principal and as a superintendent. How possibly can you understand all the subjects that are being taught in the school, particularly, well, not just middle and high, but even preschool. You might have a preschool you're in charge of. And I don't know about you, but I never taught preschool. So how does a principal to give specific, effective feedback to the content area specialists get some of that information? And we have several ways that we'll probably talk about in subsequent sessions, and probably even share the blog, Allison, that talks about how can a principal quickly, efficiently, but yet in depth, understand a specific content. So your feedback isn't vague, general, but it's more tailored to what the teacher wants. Some of you mentioned in the sessions I attended, and I think this is really, really important, in the clinical supervision model, having those pre-conferences where together you with the teacher identify which areas you're going to be looking at and collecting data on. Because another thing I know people struggle with sometimes is giving feedback that is more perceived as more critical or more harsh or more negative. And when we agree on what data we're going to collect and collect that data as evidence, then the evidence confronts. You don't need to confront poor performance. They'll get that from what you scripted or what you took as far as data points. So just thank you, Alice. I just want to say something about that so they knew I could talk.
That's great, Mary Lynn. Thank you. I'll turn it over to you.
They didn't doubt that as a former superintendent. I'm sure they're used to that. Yeah.
So just quickly, Mary Lynn and I are pretty much done with a lot of our work here. What we really want to move into is the heart of this session, which is really helping you work through and articulate your own instructional supervision philosophy and approach. The reason we sort of started with feedback is to really start generating, just getting right into the practice of it, right? Thinking about what you actually already do. So we can pull back and be like, well, why do I do it that way? In subsequent book study sessions, we will get further into like the meaningful feedback piece and practicing that actual skill set. Culturally responsive instructional supervision, really fine-tuning your practice of instructional supervision. So thinking about some of those other structural pieces around growth and development, and then the content-based piece. How do you deep dive into a content area so you can walk into, say, a STEM classroom and feel like you can have and engage in a conversation and honor that teacher's expertise. So without further ado, I'm going to, I think, turn it over to Mary Lynn. I'm going to pull up a Google Doc document for us to work through. And this really is for you to take some time, sort of sit back and step back and start writing out your kind of why behind this. We're not looking for an essay, but we are looking for core beliefs, right? So really be thinking about that as we do that. So let me stop sharing here, and I'm going to Mary Lynn, maybe I'll have you actually talk through this slide, and then I'll go ahead and pop it on.
Allison's going to give you a tool, Google Doc, to work on. We're going to go into breakout rooms again. But what this is about is for us to have time to think and reflect, or for you to have time to think and reflect on what is your instructional supervision approach. I have used this with numerous groups and students that I work with to help them tease out some of their beliefs so we can build on it. And I think the interesting thing is this just isn't an exercise in nothing. I have had people, once it's developed, this is just a draft for you and a way to get started thinking. They've used this to talk to their teachers about, here's what I believe, and here's how I'm going to approach supervision and instructional supervision. I've had students use it in job interviews when they're talking and giving answers to questions about, tell me about your belief of instructional supervision. I had one student said, well, it's right here from Dr. Darrington's class. We worked on this. So this is a way for you to get thinking and get started with this if you choose to continue, but also it could be a useful document should you choose to polish it up. So Allison, I can't see the prompts any longer. They're hidden, but
Yes, hold on one second. And I'm just going to put the documents up here so folks
Okay.
can see them.
what we
yeah.
have is some prompts for you to think about, to respond, not necessarily point by point, but to stimulate your thinking and reflection about what you believe.
Yeah, so let
And
me go
there's
ahead
a
and
number,
open
here
that
they
for
are.
you.
So for example, how do you believe teachers learn best? I mean, how do you believe they learn? In the university, in practical experience, job embedded perhaps? And a STEM you could answer with that is, I believe teachers learn best when or by. A second kind of belief would be, when and how do teachers change their practice? I mean, the point is about not just reinforcing the good that they're doing, which is important, but sometimes there needs to be change. I mean, we get changes coming to us. I don't know when you last changed your standards in Utah, but it's been a while in Tennessee. But that had caused a lot of relearning for teachers to have to grapple with. So I believe teachers change practice when. Another belief, why do you provide feedback to teachers? And we talked about how it is best delivered, but why do they do that? So I believe feedback is important because. And then when you provide feedback to teachers, what should they expect? I mean, it's a two-way street. What should they expect from you to hear, to feel, and to experience? And why is that important? So Allison, those are questions to address and things to think about in a kind of a, I won't say brochure. Back in the old days, we used to do this on paper, but now it's on Google Docs. So
Yes, so oops. I have provided, hopefully for all of you, let me just stop sharing this, a link, a couple of links in the chat. One is to a Google Doc, which I hope you can access and I hope you can copy your own version. I see a lot of anonymous animals in there, including a capybara, my youngest's favorite. So you should be able to copy and download a copy onto your own desktop if you'd like to and run with it. I also just did a link to a file as well. So hopefully you should be able to open one of those. Does anybody have any issues opening the files? Should start there.
And we'll add, when you are in the breakout session, this is an individual activity, not a group chat like last one. Allison and I will pop around in case you have any questions or need any support.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and we'd like to have, I look over at my calendar, my clock is not over there. Let's go ahead. We really want to give you 20 minutes to really just sort of pull back and dive into this.
Yeah, well, why don't we start with 15 maybe and see where they are, because
yeah, let's start with 15. Mary Lynn and I would love to pop around, so you may see us just come in and say hello and learn a little bit about you and meet you personally and support you one-on-one. So don't be surprised if we float around to your individual rooms, but please take this document and just start working through it. When we do come back as a full group, if folks are interested in sharing, we'd love to hear out. We know you're at different places and spaces. Some of you may be polishing this. Some of you may have formal training in this, maybe not. So please just, join us where you are, and we'll meet you there and we'll keep working. So let me go ahead and open some breakout rooms and we will get to it. All right. right, I think I'm going to go ahead and open them now for folks. So you can pop in there and Mary Lynn and I will bounce around and join you. So good luck on your adventures here. We're excited to see what you're thinking about, work with you on this. We'll see you in a few minutes.
I don't know if I missed it, but I'm not in a breakout.
All right, Tyler. Oh, here we go. Let me
Sorry.
open. There we go. I didn't press the open all rooms button. That's why, Tyler. Thank you. Mary Lynn, I'm going to give folks a couple minutes to get started, and then I'm going to just start bouncing around. Oh, you're muted.
How many breakout rooms are there?
I have 30, but we don't have that many folks. So maybe I'm wondering, I'm just looking to see why don't I start up at 1? And do you want to
Okay.
start at the bottom?
Okay.
Can we start bouncing around? Awesome. Thank you.
Are we down to 14? There was 28.
Yeah, where can you see the numbers?
Participants down at the bottom,
Oh
14.
yeah, no. So I think that there is 14 here in the big room and the rest of them are in breakout rooms.
Like, okay, I think, like I said, I think we need to, give it not too much time to think. It's better. This is not going to finish this product. I don't want to lose them, okay. All
15
right.
is
I'll
great.
start
I'll put a
I'll
timer
start
on.
it. All right, I'll start at the larger number. Hello, Tyler.
Yeah, sorry,
Hi.
I'm just working on.
Yeah. Thoughtful process. How long have you been a principal?
10 years.
Ah, always in charter schools?
Yeah, always at Roots. I started Roots 10 years ago.
Oh, I'd love to
So,
learn about all your charter schools. We do in Tennessee, Washington State, where I come from, as I just found out in being a breakout room, Justin's from Washington State. That's
uh,
right. But I'm not a native there. I'm an Illinois native, went to Washington State, now Tennessee. So it's an interesting perspective. Tennessee has some charter schools. We have a number of virtual schools. Some are charter, some are just virtual schools in the public school system. And so we have some experience, but not like you have in Utah. It's quite a vigorous group, it sounds like there. Washington State had not very few, if any.
yeah, they do. So we're an alternative school,
Okay.
and then the kids, it's a farm base, so the kids run like a 6-acre farm,
Oh,
urban
wow.
farm. So
That is really neat. But yeah, I'd like to
yeah,
learn
it's
more.
fun.
Yeah, I think that's learning what everybody does and about the charters and the focus is something that would really interest me.
Yeah,
Well, thank you
it's
for
cool.
sharing that.
Yeah.
And do you directly supervise teachers then and give feedback on their performance and all?
We kind of have, everybody gives everybody feedback.
Okay.
So teachers give each other feedback. I'm not the admin that's directly over teachers.
Okay.
That is Larissa is our project man or our program manager. So
Okay.
I'm what's called the vision director. So kind of like
Oh,
I'm over culture and
okay.
help kind of with behavior and with
Okay.
managing the farm and everything else.
Okay, I think that some of the principles of effective feedback apply to any kind of communication.
Oh yeah.
You know, we're zeroing in on instruction, but communicating on what the vision is or so on. Quite often people want to know the specifics. And you know, you have the things to measure, even in a strategic plan has to be measurable, actionable steps. So I think some of what we're talking about is bigger than instructional leadership. That just is
Oh
what.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a kind of trauma sensitive, so all of our staff's.
Oh, you are,
And so-
okay.
Yeah, so I handle a lot of that feedback on far as like classroom cultures and how
Okay,
trauma, some of our trauma informed or trauma sensitive stuff is used in the classroom. And
okay,
then
all right.
character, we use a lot of social emotional learning character, and then I'm over that, making sure that every class has that SEL component.
Is that typical of the Utah schools or Utah charter schools, or is that something related to your mission?
It's related to our mission.
Okay,
So
Great.
the trauma, I think you're starting to see a lot more schools kind of lean towards trauma sensitive,
yes,
especially the alternative schools, trying to
yes,
create more restorative practices.
absolutely.
So,
Our legislature in Tennessee mandated a trauma sensitive curriculum, some for teachers in their teacher training. And we've been working with
someday here, hopefully.
Yeah, and our principal program too, so we've incorporated, they did a nice job having a video and vignettes and discussion. Otherwise, it's kind of difficult when the professors don't know that much about it either to try and teach it. So they had some good resources for us to use.
Yeah, I wish Utah, I mean, for me, I wish every professional license that the state would have some trauma training, even if it's just kind of a basic understanding of the ACEs.
That's what ours is. Yes, that's what ours is. It's kind of a basic understanding, but the state did a good job developing some videos and I think vignettes and so on. Yeah, exactly. And it is the basic, but it's something.
Yeah, it helps. It helps a ton. I think it's a lot of our retention. I say our teacher retention has to do with trauma informed because they don't burn out quite as much because they don't take things so personal.
Ah, good point. Well, pleasure to talk with you.
Yeah, great to talk to you.
Yeah, I hope to get to see you some more.
Thanks.
I would love to know about each of these schools. I just talked with a couple of people, charter schools, because they have their own focus. And just interesting. I could learn a ton.
Oh,
Maybe
yes.
maybe we have a research project here.
It's funny,
And-
right before the session, I was like, why don't we do a charter study on like what the feedback structures look like and how they distribute the task of
Yeah.
instructional supervision? So
And
yeah, I actually thought
Justin
that's-
was from Washington State as well. We had a chit chat about that.
Oh, cool. Well, awesome. I'm going to give folks just we have about 2 minutes left.
Yeah,
So
I think it's enough. Yeah.
let me just give a little bit of a message out here.
Yeah, I would shut it down pretty quick here. I think it's important to let them share some. How do you see that to say,
Yeah,
what-
maybe I'll see if there's volunteers.
yeah, right. And you ask them what, maybe just like what was a key point that you would include in your instructional leadership platform or whatever we called it.
Yeah.
So it's, so we can move on to several rather than somebody reading their whole thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
My last slide is the tools and resources about the gather information with the survey.
Yeah, and I actually forgot one of my doctoral students has like a teaching and learning position. I think I mentioned this to you in a charter. So the principal, a traditional school principal, non-charter school principal's roles kind of like divided into different pieces, like a
Yeah.
behavioral piece or a management piece
Yeah.
and a teaching and learning piece. And I wonder too, the survey could be something that's utilized also potentially with like instructional coaches or those in the teaching and learning
yes.
roles, in addition to those that might be in the director roles, because they may have different
Yes,
positioning
yes.
in that feedback
Yes.
observation. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right.
Make sure I
Yes.
have that up. Let me pick that up. There you go.
We don't have any other activities. We've got half an hour. Not that I think anybody minds if we don't use it all, but I think
No.
taking a little bit of feedback comments now wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, that would be great. Let's do that. All right, I'm going to close. Let me go ahead and close all the rooms.
Did we leave a chance for questions at the end?
Yeah, we didn't leave it, so we
Okay.
we'll do that.
Okay.
Okay, I've gone ahead and closed the room, so we'll have folks come back here. Okay, we're just waiting for everyone to come back, so bear with us here. Thank you. Okay, I think we have everyone back with us. Mary Lynn and I really appreciated the opportunity to just learn from all of you and how you sort of structure these tasks. And I can tell, I knew, even from hearing from you, the different sort of ways you approach this. And excited to hear, especially sometimes in charter settings, you have a little more autonomy about how you structure some of these tasks. So we would love just to hear out if anybody's interested in sharing your instructional supervision philosophy. You don't have to show us your whole thing, but if there's just like one nugget in there that is going to be inserted in your approach or your platform or how you think, maybe it's a sentence, maybe it's an idea, we would love to hear. So any volunteers would be awesome.
I'll jump in and just say that when teachers feel safe in confidence that you as their principal, their supervisor, have faith in them, that they're going to be willing to go out of their comfort zone and change. But if they don't feel safe and they're worried about everything, they're never going to open up and make those changes.
That is so true, Melanie. How do you have a strategy that helps a teacher feel safe? What does that mean to you that you could share?
But I think teachers need to know exactly what their expectations are. They can't go in guessing, because if there's guesswork, there's never anything that they know they're being looked at for. Or so knowing the exact expectations and then giving feedback on those expectations, but then going in and seeing them often and building a relationship with them and giving them concrete ways to make changes according to what the expectations are. And then when you develop that relationship with them and they know that you're on their team and helping them, it'll make a big difference.
Thank you. Now that is a well articulated piece of your philosophy. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think something that's really wonderful there is you talk about sort of the idea or the belief and then like the actions that lend itself to that, right? Or how those actions are manifested from that belief. So, taking one step further, it's even, okay, what are the things that I do to create clear expectations? So teachers know when X, Y, and Z is happening. Like, what does that look like? Is it documents that I'm communicating? Am I verifying that they understand? So I'm channeling the clear as kind thing right now. So, all right, who else wants to share? That was really helpful. Thank you.
I'd be interested to know if anybody addressed developmental. From looking at your feedback to us, there was quite a few comments, quite a few maybe, about teachers at various stages, like the more experienced and working with them. Did anybody in their approach talk about developmental stages of teachers or how you work with that differently? If not, just volunteer anything, but I thought that maybe someone would like to share that.
All right, we'll do our authentic wait time. we won't ring you for answers.
Real quick, can I just, I
Yes,
have
please.
one thing.
Thank you. Jump in, Tyler.
I think one of our roots, I think one of the most important thing is that everybody's in everybody's room as much as possible. So that it's a culture of not so much supervision, but collaboration. I hate, no, I mean, I know it's in your slide, so I'm not bashing your slide, but I hate that idea of like instructional supervision. And it is more trying to create an environment where it's more instructional, that everybody, and I'll go in, and sometimes there's classrooms that are struggling and we'll go in and we'll teach a lesson in that classroom and then get feedback on our teaching from as admins, so that there is that more of a collaboration. So it's kind of instead of supervision philosophy, it's more of a collaboration philosophy.
I really like that. That's a very collaborative, but teaching and getting feedback on your own practice, that's amazing. I know what you mean about supervision, because people will often think of it as, well, I've heard some refer to it as snoopervision, inspecting the classroom, like I know everything and I'm telling you. I think I know in what Ellison and I study, we generally don't mean it that way, but what you're talking about with collaboration is probably one step further than I've heard before, and I think that would be something I'd love to hear more about.
Kind of a big brother too. We all have cameras in all of our rooms, and I'll drop in and just watch a classroom, and then I'll go in and say, hey, I was watching you and listening, and I loved this and this. And we do that. I try to do that as much as possible so that they don't feel like I would never correct anything I see on camera. But I give a lot of compliments on stuff that I see on the cameras. And that way it helps them feel comfortable when I walk in, because whenever an admin walks in, if you haven't walked in enough, they always get nervous.
Boy,
And that
that's for
nerves
sure.
often keeps you from really even knowing what's actually going on in that classroom.
That camera idea is certainly a way to make it timely, immediate, isn't it? When people talk about that, and I've people mention, how do I get in classrooms enough? There's hardly any time sometimes in a day as it is, but that seems like that would take care of several things. Impressive.
Yeah, I would never do negative though, or like,
Yeah,
hey, I was
right, I
watching on
hear
the
you.
cameras and
Because then
you
it would
need to
be like a
correct.
big brother, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw
a
you
positive
and you didn't
place.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I like that, Tyler, as you talk through this, is really sort of like thoughtful and intentional about what you do and why you do it and the purpose of those things. I think supervision, we always is might be incoming.
You're cutting in and out, Allison. And now you're frozen.
No.
We can hear
That's-
you. Well, while
We
you're
can hear-
waiting to unfreeze, these are great comments and ideas to share with each other. Can we hear from somebody else? There is no wrong answer. This is just sharing our thoughts and ideas.
I think my internet may have gone down. Hopefully everyone else was still here chatting. Good.
Yeah.
I was thinking about teacher safety and how we foster that collaborative and safe environment. And I think teachers feeling safe goes far beyond just your like how you do supervision and how you observe their classrooms, but it's in every decision you make. If you're including them in every decision you make, if you're providing resources that support your teachers personally and also professionally, I think that if they know that you have their backs and they know that you're trying to support them, I think that makes a huge difference. Like I do things like we have our social worker that meets with the kids, but then I also have our social worker do like a teacher support group after school and things like that, that communicate to the teachers from the administration that we care about you and we're taking care of you.
Love it. We have time for a couple more. Anybody else? These are great. I think we lost Allison.
I'm here, Mary Lynn. I just
Oh.
wanted to make sure my audio was working
Okay.
before I jumped back in. Some funky things. I'm getting some disappearing pictures over here. So, but hopefully you all can hear me okay. No, I was
Yeah.
just going to add, Tyler's comment about, the terminology is just so hard for us to move away from. I think you're absolutely right. The word supervision and obviously evaluation has a very controlling sound to it, like somebody will be coming in to find something wrong with your work. And it's really hard to come up with a better term, right? So it totally would be Tyler, if you got anything, throw them out there. But I was working on the redesign teacher evaluation for Utah State Board of Ed, and we were just grappling with coming up with a better word that everyone would understand. But I think that, yeah, absolutely, sort of changing the dynamic. And every time I do, in my principal preparation program, I do sort of like tell me the feelings you have about teacher supervision. And unfortunately, they're all negative because we have this idea of someone's coming in, they popped into my classroom once, they've never seen me, and they're giving me feedback and it doesn't make sense, et cetera. And so really just breaking the mold of that and disrupting it, I think is huge.
Yeah, and I think a large part of it is because we have conflated and confused the accountability compliance component with the teacher growth component. There is an accountability compliance. I mean, I think every state in the union has received state dollars, and so there's some oversight and some accountability and maybe standards passed by the legislature, I think, in most all the states. So there is that, but that can be handled. And then we've got this other side of the teacher growth part. So it's the focus on the teacher growth, instructional improvement, all those collaborative things you all were talking about that hopefully principals focus on more than the compliance accountability, even though it has to be done.
Yeah.
Anybody have any more thoughts on?
Yeah, Allison, and again, I get why we use it. Everyone knows what it means.
Yeah.
I joke around at Roots when I have a word that has the negative, I just replace it with culture or community. And so, it is hard. I don't let my teachers say classroom management. They have to say culture, just because it creates a different kind of vibe or different feeling or stress.
It does. You're right. Words matter. Yes. Thank you for that. That's a good thought.
But no, I get it. I'm not finding fault in I did find fault in your slide, and I apologize.
No.
So,
No,
but I didn't mean anything by it.
You can't offend us. We've just been kicking around doing this for a while now, and there are people in our professional university circle, across the United States, who do get kind of feisty, don't they, about supervision and evaluation and all that. But I, as a former principal and superintendent, I see it's all necessary, and it's how we manage it that's important.
But I think what it does is it really raises this idea of what do you call this work, right? And how does that matter? And so I think, even some of these like naming things that we've talked about today really actually hit at why you want things maybe different, or how you want that to feel to your teachers, or what should they expect, or how do we engage in it? Tyler, this idea of going in and teaching as an admin, like creating spaces of vulnerability, cultures of feedback, right? As I'm thinking of, as all of you share, Katrina, like what are your bullet points I'm imagining might already be in your supervision philosophy, and those are coming really clearly out, for us, and that's really what we wanted you to get out of this today.
And also, I think what we wanted to get out with this is how little time we sometimes have to reflect on our work. I mean, we might encourage it in teachers and others, but how often do we get time to sit back and reflect? So this was an opportunity to reflect on the topic that we are presenting on, but hopefully you have time to reflect on other things as well. And take care of yourselves. It's a very, very busy, demanding job, and we have to take care of ourselves and reflect on what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will bring us, Mary Lynn, do you want to talk?
All right, yes. So one way to reflect is to get feedback for yourself. And there's many ways to do that, I'm sure, but gather information. I am rather fond of getting information from teachers. And so you can get information from teachers through a survey or others. Some of you might have very informal ways. I don't know the size of your schools. You might have small staffs, but quite often the schools have very large. I mean, it's not unusual for a high school principal to have over 100 teachers, and they all get supervised by somebody when there might even be only 3 admins. So size is another contextual factor, I understand. But regardless of the size, getting feedback from teachers can be helpful. Feedback about the feedback. How do you perceive the feedback you're getting? And Alice and I talked about, we realized that sometimes we talk about this in a very linear way as far as there's a principal, assistants, a teacher, so on, like the pyramid model. But in a charter school, I think it's probably in many of your schools much more organic. And so you might not be the one providing the feedback or who needs to have that reflected to you, but this is something you could share with others, whether you have coaches or here we do a lot of peer coaching, peer observing classrooms and providing feedback. And this is something that they need as well to find out how is the feedback I'm giving perceived. So Allison is going to tell you about and then give you a way to access a little survey we developed in case you would like to use it with whoever, your teachers, or give it to somebody else to use to see how their feedback is perceived, how effective it is.
Yeah, so let me go ahead. I put in a link in our chat to a Google Doc. I also am just going to, thank you everyone for your patience. I'm going to put an actual link to the document as well, just in case. And then as you open it, you can take a little peek. Please, if you have this open in Google Docs, just make a copy and you can keep it for yourself. And then let me open it as well. And I'll just sort of show you kind of what Mary Lynn and I did. You know, I know that as school leaders, time is of the essence. And Mary Lynn and I thought really thoughtfully about like resources and tools you can walk away from, you know, with this session. And you know, one of the things is a lot of you really articulated some really core beliefs that you already have a part of your school. And sometimes, at least I know in the non-charter settings, and you may have your own structure, sometimes we have these sort of global instruments that are given to teachers, teacher surveys, right? That aren't particularly specific to the instructional supervision. So Mary Lynn and I worked on crafting a survey you're welcome to use and take and run with it. That really hits on some of these pieces that we talked about today from research theory and also that you brought up as well. But there may be things in here that you want to add or change or don't exactly get it exactly how you have it. So for example, Melanie, you know, you might be really interested in getting some information about trust or how that happens. You know, Tyler, maybe you're interested in how teachers feel about the collaborative nature of, you know, being in each other's classrooms and like, you know, that's something that you put out in the world. If teachers give a survey, do they also agree and think about that, right? And so please feel free to use this survey either yourself as a director, or, you know, if you have a director of teaching and learning or instructional coaches that want to use this to get information about how teachers feel, their voices on the feedback experience for them. So we hope this is helpful as you craft and think about your work. Yeah, Mary Lynn.
Yes, and I think because so many of you talked about trust, this probably would be something that teachers would feel comfortable filling out. It's for feedback for you, but it can be intimidating or you might not get accurate reflections back from them. It's meant to kind of hold up a mirror to your practice and see if what you think is what they think. And of course, again, size, depending on if you only have a few teachers, it might, they might not feel like doing it. I don't know. It's just a tool. I like getting that kind of information through surveys or even focus groups. Any thoughts on that? Would anybody actually use this? Do you think it's a good idea? Now, I'm asking this as a person who works with preparing leaders. In my doctoral program, they're all already principals. Some of them are State Department leaders. And so they're very knowledgeable already. And I'm trying to add to what they already know. So I'd like to know from you, is this something you think you would ever consider using, a survey with teachers on how they perceive your feedback, or is it something you wouldn't even consider? Or what are your
think
thoughts on?
I really like it. Go ahead, Melanie, sorry.
Or no, sorry, I could have waited. I just think that something like this is crucial. If you're not willing to take feedback from your teachers on the information that you're giving to them or that you're using to help them grow, then you're defeating the purpose of what you're doing. So I think it's always important to ask feedback on what you're doing and how is it serving the purpose that you meant it to serve. So no, I think this is a great thing.
Thank you.
I read through it and I was like, man, we have a teacher that really they get really defensive when we give feedback. And I thought, instead of them being defensive, if we were to give this to them and then they could really slam us on this, and then we could model to them, really, I mean, we would then model to them how we wish that they reacted to our feedback. I think it would we've never really done something like this. So I think this would be a way to kind of help them see like, hey, you know, you weaponize that maybe a little bit, and we're going to come back and we're going to have a positive conversation with the feedback you just gave us. And I think that would change how they then would receive feedback the following time.
Oh, that is really a great thought. Also, I just thought of something else. You know, with surveys, they can also be teaching tools. If a teacher doesn't understand what good feedback is, sometimes just by answering these, you know what good feedback is, specific. You know, so it could even be in itself a tool for promoting teacher understanding of what is feedback, or in your dialogue after you get the feedback and maybe want to discuss what it meant, then they learn or understand more what you're trying to accomplish. Any other thoughts
Mary?
on this?
Yeah,
Stephanie.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I'm the director at Early Light Academy. We're in South Jordan, Utah. And we did something similar to this. This is helpful. I've got it printed. I'm already putting some notes on it, but it actually was really helpful for us to do this a few years ago, because based on teacher feedback, we were really able to hone in and articulate what we were looking for more specifically, and shortened the eval and really helped teachers have more ownership and actually do like a pre-eval survey, like, hey, I'm coming into your classroom. This is what would you like me to pay attention to when you get in there? What do you feel like, you know, you want to celebrate with me, and that kind of thing, so that, like Tyler's saying, making it more of a collaborative experience for everybody. And so that they know we're not just in there, I'm going to sit in the back of the room, take a few notes, watch them for, 10 minutes and then leave. And that's their eval for, for the year. But really make it a collaborative thing. And part of their eval is what they choose to work on, what they feel like they are strong at, what they feel like they want to get better at, and how can we help them. So, but surveys are great because it helps you really narrow down what it is you're trying to do.
That's right. And I really liked your example of kind of a gathering information before the classroom observation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things, Stephanie, thanks for sharing, and Carrie Ann, thank you for sharing in the chat as well, is, something like this, or even if you're getting information informally from teachers, I'm just thinking about when I've done these surveys as well. Some teachers saying, oh, the principal doesn't know the kids I'm teaching, they come in, they leave. Oh, great. We'll put that in the pre-observation form. Tell me a little bit about your teachers, your students that you're teaching this year, like really even just using those as a beautiful place to pivot, or like, what questions do you want to be asked before I come in and see you? What do you want me to know? And really having teachers be organically part of building the process, I think is really fascinating. So thank you. I think that's really exciting. About that. Carrie Ann, I don't know if you want to share a little bit. I don't know if you might only be in a chat opportunity, but if you're willing to jump in, you're welcome to give us a little more feedback on that. You're getting feedback from having an open line of communication and giving feedback directly. Any other folks want to chat or comment on this?
Or maybe somebody would like to say it's a bad idea. We would like to hear that too.
Yeah. I know, I guess I can provide a little, as not a native Utahn, but somebody new to Utah that's trying to learn as best as I can. I have heard about folks being overtly nice in Utah and having difficulties providing critical feedback. So that also might be something that happens too in something like this, that you give it out, but you're like, ooh, you know, everybody said strongly agree. They're so happy with my feedback. What do I do from now? So if that's a challenge, sometimes even working on really concrete things can help pull out some of the feedback you might be looking for. This is extreme, but I'm just throwing the ideas out here. Even like recording your own post-observation conferences, watching it with a teacher. What about that conversation was helpful? You know, really giving targeted things for them to think about. And it doesn't even have to be your own. You could watch one together to really start kind of crafting and improving upon your feedback. That's a huge lift, I know. But if you're trying to break through the culture of nice that sometimes we experience here in Utah, there's some strategies to get to that.
But that actually is a good idea. Is what somebody mentioned before, kind of like modeling
Yes.
what you expect as far as collaboration, and that makes sense to me. The other thing is, as instructional leaders, supervisors, whatever you want to call them, we're the lead learners. We always have to keep learning too, as you all know. And I think demonstrating that you are a learner too, and interested in your own growth and continuous learning is an important message for teachers.
Absolutely.
I'm done, Allison.
Yeah, I know. We have some of our key takeaways here. And we want to make sure we leave a little bit of time for Shannon to kind of wrap us up today. But we really just want to make sure that you walk away with, and you know this, but just to articulate research in the field. We know that principals and specifically their instructional supervision matters for the teaching and learning that's happening in schools. And that we hope that this philosophy, you take it, you work with it if you want to, you refine it so that you can articulate for yourself and for others why you do what you do, right, in your schools. And then improving feedback structures are key, you know, to really making that feedback meaningful and actionable, which is one thing that really kind of came out of our conversation today, was really having that actionable feedback piece, right? So without further ado, there was one other thing. Oh, questions. Is there any questions for Mary Lynn and I before we sort of wrap up and turn over to Shannon today? Okay, before I turn it over to Shannon, beware. Oh, go ahead, Mary Lynn.
We also, I'm perfectly happy to, and I know you are too, to share our emails. If anybody has any specifics or would like to contact one of us, we'd be happy for you to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, and we've put our emails up here. Please feel free to reach out to us anytime. Mary Lynn and we're chatting today as we did this, and we said, why aren't we getting some information on how this works in charter schools? So you may be getting a participate in our research in the upcoming year. We'll see. Without further ado, Shannon, I want to go ahead and turn it over to you so you can sort of wrap us up today. And I know you have some information to share about if folks want to continue doing some more work on this with us.
Yes, thank you. Brandon, can I get the opportunity to share my screen, please? So thank you, ladies, for walking us through that and giving us an opportunity to reflect on our own personal philosophies on evaluations and observations and things of that nature. So on the screen is a QR code. If you will scan that, it will take you to the link, it'll take you to the form to register for the book study. We will provide the book, of course, and then these ladies will engage you in this book study and have that deep dive into that discussion. This is all being made possible by a grant from the State Charter School Board. So we appreciate their support of this opportunity for our charter school leaders. Now, in today's meeting, most of you are school directors. If you have somebody on staff that is over teacher evaluations, maybe a curriculum coach, maybe a staff coach, whatever that looks like in your school. If you would like them to participate, then go ahead and fill out that information or share the link with them and have them do that. I've also included the link in our group chat. So if scanning this QR code is not working for you or not convenient for you, go ahead and take a look at that that link to register for the next training. So thank you, ladies. We appreciate you taking the time. We appreciate the resources that you've shared with us, and we look forward to continuing this with you for the book study. Now,
Shannon, how many sessions of the book study are there? We have some instructional coaches here. I was just gonna give them info.
Good idea. Allison, would you like to touch on that?
Yeah, so I think we have slated 4 sessions, Stephanie. I think ideally Shannon, Mary Lynn, and I talked about maybe having them about 2 to 3 weeks apart, maybe a little bit further than that. And I think the way that we've designed it is they can be standalone if you want to come for one of the sessions or not. I don't know, Shannon, if you had preferences for that. But hopefully this, what we did today, Stephanie, the instructional supervision platform would be a wonderful thing to bring with you if you've done it already, to have that as a resource. I think Shannon, I have little descriptions on each of them that we could share out, Stephanie, if there's specific things that your instructional coaches might be looking for or not.
Yes, and we will send that, we'll share that out with everybody. Okay,
thank you.
Okay, so quick, just two items before we move to our last part of our training today. Our next charter director meeting will be scheduled for Wednesday, January 10th. Now, it is different than our normal Monday meetings, but because of the holiday and because of the days that many of you will be returning on Monday, and that just was not a great time to meet, the next meeting is a Wednesday, the 10th, January 10th, same time, same link. And then last, if you are looking for Midas credit for these trainings, the meeting code is 63253. And if you want more information on that, go ahead and contact Marie. She'd be happy to share. So our last piece of training today is Nathan. And Nathan, I saw that you were here. I'm going to get rid of my screen. He is going to be discussing, he's the STEM coordinator, and he will be discussing with us PCBL grant opportunities. So with that, Nathan, we'll give you the opportunity to take the floor now.
Great, thanks, Shannon. I appreciate a few minutes of your time. I won't take too much of it. So as Shannon mentioned, I'm the STEM coordinator for the Utah State Board of Education. I talked to you last month about kind of STEM things. And this month, I'm excited to be back talking to you about a new opportunity connected to my work, which is the PCBL specialist for the Utah State Board of Education. PCBL stands for Personalized Competency-Based Learning, and we have a few resources that I wanted to share with you, mainly our grant application for the upcoming fiscal year. It'll be due on March 31st, and I'll share a application with you and talk to you a little bit more about what that looks like in a second. But beforehand, just for those of you that aren't familiar with PCBL, we just released a 2-minute and 30-second video that I would love to play for everyone if that is okay. Looks like I can indeed share my screen. And Shannon, can you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you can or cannot hear the sound when I start, just to make sure.
Does this look familiar to you? It's not my experience. In my Utah school, we're focused on personalized, competency-based learning, PCBL. For me as a student, this is what PCBL looks like. Before, I didn't always understand what was expected of me. Now, I'm given examples of what success looks like so I can achieve it. When it comes to learning, my teachers have high expectations for me and believe I can meet them. I feel good in class because I have positive relationships with my classmates and know my teachers care about me and my interests. And my parents and my teachers share ideas about how to maximize my learning. Before, I had to wait for my grades to know how I was doing in class. Now, I always know where I'm at in my learning and what I need to do to achieve my goals. I set learning goals and track my progress and growth. And I partner with my teachers to make choices about my learning. Before, I was so worried about my one shot to get a good grade. Now I have multiple chances and different ways to show what I know, and I'm able to get more practice when I need it. I receive regular feedback on the areas and ways in which I can grow, and to demonstrate what I've taken from our learning. Sometimes I take a test, sometimes I create a project, or sometimes I deliver a presentation. Before, I would finish assignments early and read a book until the class was ready to move on. Now I get to go deeper and extend my learning as soon as I show that I've met the learning goal. There were also times when I needed more help and I would get frustrated. But now my teacher works with me in a small group or individually to give me the help I need. I've learned how to choose tools and resources that will help me learn too. Before, I was afraid to make mistakes. Now I know that making mistakes is part of my learning and personal growth. I listen to the ideas of others and consider them as I develop my own thoughts. And I ask for help when I need to. Because of the way my school designs learning through a personalized, competency-based approach, I feel empowered to take on future opportunities for learning and work. I have the skills I need to communicate effectively, collaborate with others, and think critically to solve problems. And I have the attitude that I can take on any challenge. Hello, world.
Okay, so that's a kind of quick, no, I don't know. There we go. So that's a quick explanation of what PCBL gets at for those that haven't heard before. But there's a couple of kind of misconceptions that I also like to clear up before I talk about some of our PCBL resources. And that is that PCBL isn't about technology. Oftentimes PCBL ecosystems are incorporated with the help of technology, and that's a really important component to kind of increase efficiency. But PCBL is ultimately about high quality instruction. And so rather than looking at it as a revolution within education, like I think about it as an evolution. I'm sure that everyone who's present today and everyone who might be watching this recording later on has aspects of their system that are kind of at the center of PCBL. And from a statewide perspective, we've kind of landed on the PCBL ecosystem and more specifically from a resource standpoint, the PCBL framework as being the kind of focal point of our way to meet our portrait of a graduate. So if you all have any questions about what PCBL is or what it looks like in practice, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to have conversations with you. And so kind of connected to that, I wanted to share an upcoming opportunity to engage in professional learning related to PCBL. That's our PCBL Summit for 2024. I will take this and put it, the link to this flyer, and I'll put it in the chat if I can find where my chat is here. So our summit's going to feature Karen Hess as a keynote speaker at the beginning of the day. And there will be workshops on what PCBL looks like across content areas, math, ELA, science might be one in SPED, etc. And then it'll also feature some innovative LEAs from across the state sharing some of their work, and the kind of former commissioner of education for the country of New Zealand that'll be talking about their evolution with regards to PCBL work in that country. So I wanted to share that as an opportunity, but I think the most kind of pressing matter that brings me here before you today is our PCBL grant application. So we just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, we opened up grant applications for the upcoming fiscal year. So what this grant application will allow those that apply to do is access 5 years worth of funding related to PCBL initiatives. And so the year-by-year funding rates range from $50,000 for the planning grant at the beginning of the grant to roughly $200,000. And that's kind of variable funding year over year. And I can't even tell you exactly what it's going to be every year because the board has to approve our carry forward funds each year. So there's the possibility, well, that like there's always going to be a little bit of fluctuation across years, but it's a great way to access a community of individuals that are looking for individuals and communities, I suppose, looking for innovative ways to move their kind of educational paradigms forward. So I will also share the link to this planning grant in the chat. And this should actually be July 2024. So heading to the chat. Yeah, so the only expectation to access these grant monies, and I see a few LEAs that are already a part of the grant ecosystem on today. The expectation to access the grant funding is simply to complete the application. It includes a needs assessment that you'll have to take or potentially take with some stakeholders from your community, and then fill out some kind of questions and a narrative related to how you're going to embed this in the work that you're also pursuing across your LEA. So and I think one other thing of note is it requires the director's signature in order to participate, because this is a systems-wide effort. It's not something that is as effective if you're only pursuing it in one sector without some kind of coherence seeking with your overall strategic plan and vision. So that's the planning grant application. I've also shared the video link and our PCBL Summit agenda in the chat. Shannon, maybe if we could go to the agenda and put those things on for those that weren't here, just linking it in the agenda, that might be helpful to prevent you from having to respond to emails, or maybe I could send it to Marie, whatever is the easiest for you all. But yeah, excellent. So I don't have any other content to share with everyone, but I'm happy to answer questions if you have kind of structural questions about what the grant looks like, or what folks' experience have been with it. This is the 5th year of existence of the grant. So our final year of, or our first year of grantees are finishing out their final year in the grant. And we have 27 LEAs participating, and we're excited to continue to build the community across the state. PCBL looks like a lot of things, but ultimately what it looks like is how to serve students best. It's high quality instruction at a systems level. So I know that you're all pursuing that. And so I'm confident that there's on-ramps in every one of your communities for these conversations. And we'd love to welcome you into the system if you're interested in applying.
Thank you, Nathan. We appreciate that. If you will send those links to Marie, she will be the one sending out any follow-up information. So that would probably be the most efficient way to do that.
I'm happy to do so.
Fantastic.
Any final or any questions? I guess there hasn't been a first yet, so I don't know if there can be a final or not. But if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to do my best to answer them. Awesome. I'll throw my email in the chat as well. So if any come up, don't hesitate to shoot them my way. And I appreciate the time and the attention.
Okay. Thank you, Nathan. We appreciate that and all those opportunities that we have for Utah Charter students. Again, this is the conclusion of our training today. Thank you for joining us. Just as a last reminder, our next meeting will be January 10th, which is a Wednesday. We look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, we hope that you have a fantastic holiday season, whatever that looks like, and however you celebrate, or however you find time to find peace and rest and relaxation. We wish you the best and hope that you find that during the holiday season. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Marie, and she'll be sharing with you the rest of this, the links from today's meeting as well. Thank you and have a great day.